Hey there, it's me, Jared Woods, speaking on behalf of Janthopodcast, even though I can't speak on behalf of Janthopodcast, I can only speak on behalf of myself. However, today's codcast is all about something very special to me, and also it is very integral to the Janthopodcast belief that's put across in the Janthopodcast Bible, and that is of the question whether reality itself is objective or subjective. Obviously, we all believe, or it just feels like we're living in a objective reality, where we're all sharing this world and the perspective of it. But as time has gone on, that seems less and less likely. And in fact, if you go way back as well to ancient times, there was indications of the contrary. Never as deep as we're about to go in, but there's definitely speak of it. The first place to always start with these things generally is Hinduism, because it's the oldest religion in the world. But even predating Hinduism were the Hindu texts, the scripture known as the Vedas. The Vedas spoke of this concept called Maya, which is that that reality itself is an illusion, and we don't have to, but there's another reality behind it. That's the true reality. This is something that's been hugely popular through all the Eastern Dharmic traditions. You'll find it in Jainism, you'll find it in Buddhism, and all over. But you even do find it in Christianity, and all the Abrahamics kind of have this conversation about the world being not real. Even in the Quran, and I have it here, the Ayah al-Hadid 57:20 says, "And what is the worldly life except the enjoyment of delusion?" But even in in Greek philosophy, Plato and all of them, they all were very much, the big question was, is reality what it seems to be? And the conversation started to lean heavily into the debate between materialism and idealism, which is, does a world persist outside of our perception, or is the entire thing just made up in our heads, in our minds, and by perceiving it, it kind of becomes real. With quantum mechanics now coming up around and bumping religion on the backside, as I discussed in my previous podcast, is that the world of quantum mechanics is indicating these things exactly that have been spoken about for thousands upon thousands of years, which is that the content, everything is made up of the same thing, the atom, which has different attributes, but the contents of an atom is largely the same. It's a nucleus which is quite significantly small in the greater scheme of the atom. The majority of the atom being just an intense vibration of electrons, meaning that atoms themselves are essentially empty space, is kind of what people say. I don't think that's 100% correct. It's still vibrational matter, but you shouldn't really be able to see it per se. But by the trade of electrons, molecules form, and then we look at them and we see them and we can tell that things are there or hear them or whatever the vibrational translation through our senses is. But the truth of the matter is, and this is the greatest probably phenomenon that's been discovered by quantum mechanics, and therefore hugely inspired all the new age thoughts and these connections with quantum mysticism, as people call it, which I like to call it, but there is obviously a huge scientific backlash to that. But fuck 'em, man. It's that the observer effect, or what I've actually been reading some people call the participant effect. That the universe itself, this is proven that when you observe matter, it behaves as solid, but when unobserved, or measured, when it's not measured, it becomes like a vibration form. So the actual observation, measuring, or of atomic matter dictates its form. So which would indicate that, towards the idealism argument, that we are perceiving the world into existence rather than it being there with or without us, which is what the kind of classical science would make you believe. Now, what Janthopodism is different about, I haven't read this anywhere else, but it probably is somewhere. But it's that this universe that we're creating through perception, it could very well be different per every single observation point. When I talk about observation points, I'm talking about mind. I'm talking about from human to human. But there's no reason to say that there's, you get this real kind of talk about subatomic consciousness. What is it called? Proto-consciousness or something like that? Where it's, it could very well be that consciousness on atomic levels exists. But that's too much for us, for anyone to even fathom. So for this discussion, we're talking about the different perceptions of sentient creatures, or perhaps even just for this, we're just going to just talk about humans, because humans are, it's just why complicate matters. So when you take two people and say you're both sitting at a table and you both look at the table and you say, well, the table is wooden and I can knock on it and it's brown, and both of you will agree. But that's not necessarily that you're sharing the same experience whatsoever. It's just that you have the common language to describe this experience and share that information. The truth is, you could both be seeing a completely different color, or even a completely different table, or even it could be so vastly different that what you're experiencing that if you had to trade perceptions, you wouldn't even recognize the variation of sight, the variation of sound. It could be a completely different development of perception per every single person. It's unprovable, but it's a good theory. That quite easily, there's no way to prove that we're all seeing the brown table exactly the same way. We can agree that it's brown, we can agree that it's a table, because we've grown up and we've gotten our minds to assign definitions to things. But to actually know that we're seeing exactly the same thing is unknowable. That's not to say that it is. Maybe we are experiencing the whole world, objectively. Very, very much possible. However, the point of this conversation is to prove to you on varying degrees that subjective reality definitely exists. And how I'm going to do this is by stages. And we're going to keep leveling up. And it's going to be epic. And it's going to get more and more hectic. So I hope you're freaking ready for this. So the first thing that I'm going to start with is, let's say there's two people sitting at this table, and one of them writes down the word cat, C-A-T, on a piece of paper and puts it down. Two people will look at that, and they will both agree that's the word for cat, and there will be no conflict about that. Cat, I can read it, it's cat. But what's interesting is they're both going to experience that differently. Maybe one of them is going to think about their cat, the cat that it needs to feed at some point today, and their mind goes off in that way. Maybe the other one thinks about how they hate cats and how they had an incident with a cat once and it really freaked them out. So even though they're both looking at this piece of paper and they both agree, no, we're talking about a cat here, we know exactly what that animal is, there's zero room for disparity, but in actual fact, there is, because they're both taking this word and there's memories assigned to it that are completely different. So they are experiencing something different. But now, let's add a third person to the table. This person does not speak a word of English. They look at this piece of paper. What do they see? They register the paper. They register the ink on the paper. But it's just some squiggly lines. It means nothing to them. Absolutely nothing. So even though these three people are looking at this same paper, they're having very different experiences. And one of them is actually having such a different experience that it means nothing. It doesn't even, it just, to them, it looks like some random squiggles. There's no association to that. So even on a very, very basic level, one of the most basic ways I could describe this, we can see that this thing that should be common and that we all agree on an existence level actually already is being experienced in vastly different ways for each person. Perception. Let's go. You ready? Now we're gonna level up. So now here comes the next level. Symbols. Let's say, for example, imagine the Indian flag. Do you know what the flag of India looks like? If I place the drawing of the flag of India down, some people would look at it, they don't know, they'll say, oh, it's a flag, I don't actually know what country that is. Some people will know, they say that that's India. Other people say, from India, they'll say, this is my home, this is my country, this is my nation, I'm a proud member of this. Again, same image, they all look at it, it strikes up a different perception. It's not even a word, it's nothing. It's just a couple of colors and an object and a symbol or whatever. One of the best examples of this that I can possibly bring up, it's my favorite example, especially because just how controversial it is, and that's the swastika. The swastika has such a beautiful history throughout the Eastern world. It is a holy symbol, a symbol of peace and luck. Through Hinduism, through Buddhism, you name it. It's so revered that you find it on temples all around East Asia. It's a hugely important, significant symbol for them of positive energy. However, you go to Europe, what happens? Well, the thing's been completely perverted to a symbol that we recognize as one of white nationalism, one of hate, of Holocaust, murders, complete genocide. It's such an ugly, horrible symbol. But the symbol hasn't changed at all. It's the same symbol. It's the perception of people that have changed. These huge continental perceptions with so much energy behind it, just has this immense weight on the symbol. But the symbol is not the thing. It's nothing to do with anything. That symbol is just there. But these perceptions of mind, which are deeply ingrained into the history, bring up insanely different feelings. If I had to get a swastika tattooed on my forehead, but I do it when I'm in Tibet, and I'm sitting and I'm meditating, I'm a monk, and I get it hand poked, maybe there's some level of respect that'll happen. People will say, look at this guy, he's so dedicated to finding out the inner truths and the outer truths, that he's actually got this holy sacred symbol on his tattoo, this holy symbol tattooed on his forehead. How amazingly beautiful. But then that same person goes to Germany, or say you get that tattoo in Germany, it's a whole different intention, a whole different perception, one of hate. The wrong people are going to salute you, and you're going to go to jail and hopefully beaten to death by a person of color, if that was your intention. But again, it's just, once again, we're just showing that two people in this reality, two people can look at the same thing, the identical thing, and the profound differences, or even lack thereof. Someone who's never seen a swastika before will look at that and go, there's zero emotion. Whereas you can, so you go to Southeast Asia, you get these huge emotions of positivity. You go to Germany, you get these immense, painful feelings of oppression. Or then you go to Central Africa and they're like, I don't know what that is, man. That doesn't mean anything to me. So that's a beautiful way of looking at that. All right, with me so far? Because we're about to level up, take things to the next level. This is my favorite. This is where we're getting really cool. All right. Okay, so let's say you and your friend are walking down the street, and you pass a little shop. It's a shop you've never been in before, and you say to your friend, let's pause for a moment. I'm a bit thirsty. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to get my favorite drink of all time. A grape Fanta. Do those still exist? I don't really drink soft drinks, but in this world it does. Definitely. So you go inside. You scan very quickly the drink section. Your eyes are looking for a certain thing. You see it. The grape Fanta. You pick it up. You go. You pay for it. You walk outside. You crack it. You have a huge swig. It's delicious. Your friend says, "Hey man, was there any Ribena in there?" And you say, "Ribena? I don't know if there's any Ribena in there. I didn't see any Ribena. How am I supposed to know that? I haven't been here." So your mate's like, "Okay, let's go look." So you both go in again, and lo and behold, there is Ribena. It's right next to the grape Fanta. But you didn't see it, because that's not what you were looking for. In fact, this whole shelf is full of soft drinks, but you couldn't really name any of them, because you were focused on finding that Fanta. It's the same thing, and the most famous example of this phenomenon is when the car one. I'm sure you've experienced this. Your parents get a new car, or your friend gets a new car, or you get a new car. It's a car, it's quite a nice car. And then when you're on the road, wow, this car is everywhere. It's so popular. You can't even seem to do a trip of a certain distance without seeing this car. But it was never there before. Of course, it was. Or was it? But, it was. in the most logical, without going insane, you have to believe that, yes, it was. You're only noticing it now because you have let it into your mind. This is known as frequency illusion bias. It's also, I don't know how to pronounce this, Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. Baader-Meinhof, I think that's how you say it. It's German, probably. And what it is that as soon as you kind of are in tune with something, you'll note it. This is how advertising works. This is why advertising exists. When you're watching something and suddenly an advert comes on, it's trying to just get you to get a brand recognition. It's bombarding you with its colors. That's why it's always like got a logo. It's making sure, look at the logo, look at the brand colors. So your brain eventually allows that in. So when you go for a shop and then you suddenly your eye goes, look, there's that thing that we saw on TV, because that's what it's trying to do. You wouldn't even see it otherwise. The reason for this is quite plain and simple. You are right now, even where you're sitting, you are being bombarded with so much information that your brain cannot handle it. It will in fact explode, or it will completely short circuit. I don't know if it'll explode, but that would be a thing. But it would short circuit, it would shut down. You would just be exhausted within seconds because there's so much material, sounds and sights and just absolutely everything you can imagine, brands and people talking and faces and colors and patterns. Literally, you just go for one walk and you can't even explain, you never calculate the infinite amount of stuff that's bombarding your brain. Your brain has a defense mechanism. This is very much in the Janthopodcast Bible. Those who've read it, I love you. We call it the gatekeeper, which we're going to go into a bit later what the consequences of that is. But for now, it's just that your brain, whatever you've kind of slowly trained to recognize, you will recognize more. If a Beatles song starts playing somewhere, I will be the first person on my feet shouting that there's Beatles somewhere. Like, I'm so in tune with the Beatles. I'm sure you have things too, things that you're passionate about. You will notice that when you're walking down the street, that your friends it will not even go into their minds. If someone whispers your name, you'll hear it. There's probably nothing that we're more in tune with than our own names. Someone goes, Jared, I'm going to hear that before anyone else hears that, because my whole life I've heard that. My brain is so amped to hear that. But if someone across the room says Ryan or something like that, that will just not even, I will not hear that. That's science. There's nothing voodoo about that. And I think in many ways that's what they say how the law of attraction works. They try to make the law of attraction sound this incredible manifestation, man. If you focus on the thing that it's gonna like appear from the ether in your hands. Maybe, I mean, I've seen evidence of that, but still at the same time, it could very well just be that you're just tuning your mind to see something. So when it comes, you go, there it is. That's the thing I manifested. It's not that was the thing that's there for you. It's that there's a billion things everywhere, and you've trained yourself to tune into that one as soon as you align with it. So, that's the thing. So now, to tie that back into the original conversation, is that, so everyone's designed this reality. It's that there's this infinite amount of possibilities where everything exists, and we are just picking and choosing, whether consciously or not, what goes in. And that alone is proof that we have different experiences of reality, no matter what it is. 3 people walking down the street, it's going to be a completely different reality. Who knows to what level, but definitely on the level of what they're going to notice, what they're going to understand, what they're going to enjoy, what's going to make them feel funny, what's going to trigger what memory. It's a completely different experience, even in the most mundane of activities. It's impossible for it not to be. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm sure it does. Because we're about to level up. We're about to level up. The next one, this is where the shit gets really interesting. It's about objective truth, objective reality. Because we're still kind of talking about an objective reality here. It's not necessary that the reality is subjective. It's just more that we're saying people are noticing things or know things or are able to comprehend things differently. That doesn't negate the fact, the idea of an objective reality yet. But now we're going to try do that. If I can't prove to you, or at least flick at the foundations of the theory of an objective reality, the very least I'm going to do is prove to you that objective reality is actually irrelevant. It doesn't matter. If such a thing exists, it absolutely does not matter. And how I'm going to do that is through the use of human examples, controversial figures of the modern world. So, a great example would be Trump, our good friend Donald Trump. He is such a polarizing figure. On the one side, you have people who say he's an idiot, he's a moron, he's a failed businessman, he's a reality TV show star. He's not fit to run the country, he's a racist, he's just absolutely oblivious and is destructive to America. But then on the other side, you have people who say he's the savior. The QAnon people believe he's going to take down the pedophilic governmental systems. There's people who think he's the best president that's ever happened. He's going to make America great again. Finally, someone who speaks their mind. He's genuinely the what America needs. Those are two very, very opposite opinions. And when you speak to either which one, and I'm sure you probably are on one of those sides, I imagine. Or at the very least you know people who are maybe on both sides. And when you talk to these people, they talk as if what they say is fact. They'll say, no, I'm telling you, Trump is the savior. No, I'm telling you, Trump is an idiot. It's said with such conviction that it's as if it's an objective statement. And in doing so, it's saying that the other side are completely wrong. In fact, you will hear them say that. They will say, Trump is an idiot. Anyone who believes else is a moron like he is. Or you have people saying, people who don't see what I see in Trump because they're ignorant. They don't see how much of a hero he is. So, with these two polar opposite sides, what is someone to do? How do you find an objective truth where there's quite a fine balance between these two? You know what I mean? If you look at the voting of the last elections, it was never like a landslide one way or the other. It was always kind of a close battle. So, you know, there's really this almost equilibrium of people who believe one side or the other on different varying degrees, but still one or the other. So how are you supposed to just know what the objective truth is in the situation? You got to do you just listen to one side and just think the other side is obviously full of rubbish? I mean, does that really sound like... That's not an objective truth at all. Again, that's because if you speak to either one of them, it's very, very opinionated. It's not factual. They'll say it's factual. It's a fact that Trump is an idiot. It's a fact that Trump is the QAnon hero. It's like, no, these are opinions. So where does the objective truth lie? Now you could say, well, the objective truth probably lies with Trump himself. He's either one or the other. So that's where the truth is. It's what Trump is. Okay, but again, how do we gauge that? Do we ask Trump? We know what Trump will say. Trump has a view of himself, very high, egotistical view of himself. He will say he's not an idiot. He'll say that, he'll probably think that he is the best thing. He says he's the best thing for America ever. So is that the objective truth because it's at the source? No, because his perception of himself is going to be as biased as anyone's, probably more so. So what is it about the people around him, the people that have met him? I know people who have very strong views on Trump, but they've never met him. They've never been in his company. So maybe we should be trusting people that are in his company. But again, that's tricky because there's people who have been in this company and have written books about how he's an absolute, he's unable to run the office. But then there's people who are right close to him are the biggest fans. His family, but also there's people who work for him who consider him to be the greatest president. So now, where do you find the objective truth in this? There's no majority rules kind of story because there's a bit of a seesaw going on, always a pendulum in these things. And everyone has their own biased view. The only way to get an objective, the closest thing to an objective reality, objective truth in this polarizing figure, is to literally say, I don't know. That is objective, even though now you're playing with subjectivity. You're saying it could be this way, it could be that way, so it's subjective. But you're making an objective statement. It's absolute fact that I do not know. That's the truth from my point. That's a bit of a side plot. It's the agnostic side of me, but it's just to prove that there is no way to actually find objective truth. But people are still making up their minds. Which means the objective truth, whether it exists or doesn't exist, is irrelevant. Because people will say he's this, or people will say he's that, irrespective of whatever the truth may be, if even such a thing exists, if even such a thing is discoverable. Now, let's go into another example, another figure. This one's great. Michael Jackson. Okay, so again, we talk about his accusations of criminal activity towards children. On the one side, we have people who say there is no way that Michael Jackson molested those kids. He did his court case. He was proven innocent. So many other of the kids have come in his defense. Case closed. But then, of course, on the other side, we have the opposite. People saying, I believe without a doubt that Michael Jackson did this. They base it on the fact that there are accusations. And of course the dude was quite strange. Wouldn't put it past someone who's like that. His own childhood was strange. He obviously, it is manifested in very curious ways. He obviously had an extremely, he had so much money and all this fame and stuff. You're not going to be normal. These types of things. He was kind of strange the way he was hanging with kids. So these people have made up their minds. There's people who say it's that, and there's people who say it's the other. But they don't know. They don't know. People will tell you that they know. They'll say, in fact, he definitely did it. He definitely did not do it. Based on nothing. They've made up decisions and what they believe is an objective reality based on absolutely no objective truth. The reason why, though, this is an interesting case, because Michael Jackson and the kids who accused him, there's the objective truth in this one. Because he either did it or he didn't do it. And the people that would know, the only people who would know would be him and those he did it to. But again, is it really that simple? Maybe Michael Jackson behaved inappropriately in some way. in ways that he would tell you was not inappropriate. So again, would he be is he the objective truth? Is his perception of himself and whatever happened or didn't happen the correct perception? Also with the kids, do they truly know, or has it in time, or are they lying, or in time has they kind of distorted the truth? Have they started to believe their own lies, or did it actually happen, and it's a terrible thing? But the objective truth, whatever that is, which in this case you would say does exist, is still unknowable and unachievable, and yet people are making their choices and taking their sides on the matter without any access to the objective truth. So if in this reality, if such an objective reality exists, it is irrelevant. People are still picking sides and making claims that seem factually objective where they don't actually have that information. The final figure I'd love to go into is Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a great topic because obviously then you can bring into the vaccines and COVID becomes a big thing. So, on the one side you have people saying that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, Bill Gates is an evil man. He's trying to take over the entire medical industry. He has evil intentions. He wants to inject the world with unknown potions. He wants to microchip or control the population, whatever. He's a money-hungry guy. We can never trust him. Look how much money he has. Why would anyone trust someone with that kind of billionaires? He's obviously exploitative. Microsoft itself has had mass amounts of privacy issues. Why we trust a guy like that? On the other side, you have people I say, no, look at the work he's done. He's pumped so much of his money into research. He's pushed forward the medical industry by amazing amounts. He has a keen interest in helping people. He's basically eradicated many, many diseases through vaccines throughout Africa. He saved lives. This is measurable. You can look at statistics in the case of Bill Gates and say, look, he's without him, more people would have died. Of course, then the naysayers will say, you can't trust the statistics, man. They're manipulated statistics. Okay, that's fine. But then don't come with any statistics. You either trust statistics or you don't trust statistics. I'm a little bit fed up with people when they go, you can't trust the statistics, but then they'll go, look at this, look at these statistics that are in my favor. No, you either believe them or you don't believe them. But either which way, when it comes to Bill Gates, people on one side, people on the other side. So where's the objective truth? How do we find the objective truth? Well, does Bill Gates know? Does he know? Is he the judge of his character? Maybe he thinks he's doing the right stuff, but he's actually doing the wrong stuff. Maybe he's intentionally doing the wrong stuff, but inadvertently good stuff is happening. Like, who's to say? Where is Bill Gates the authority on Bill Gates? These are fantastic examples because you hear about them all the time, and we've all developed opinions without actually being privy to any knowledge whatsoever. I know people who feel one way or the other about Bill Gates or Trump or Jackson, but they've never met him, never hung out with them, never actually have any tangible information about it except what's available to read. And of course you can read infinite articles that say the one thing, and you can read infinite articles that say the other thing. Now bring that to yourself. I'm willing to bet there's people that think you suck. Especially if you're like me and you're very vocal and say a lot of stuff online. I guarantee you, a lot of people think I'm a moron. And some people, and I know people have told me that they quite enjoy the stuff I say. So what, is there an objective truth there? Am I rubbish? Do I suck? Or am I awesome? I have my own perspective, but am I the judge of character? Is there an objective reality in which I exist as one thing? Or is there a subjectivity to how you perceive any given person, yourself included, where you see yourself a way that is going to be distorted, and other people will see you in ways weighed up against their own experiences and memories, and you will be perceived in another way. This goes with everything in life. There's not a single thing where there isn't opinion one way and opinion another way, And any objective truth to the matter either doesn't exist or is unfindable due to how many different perspective points there are. And I just wanted to quickly even touch on the manipulation that can be used for these types of things. Not only in the articles you read, but the AI side of things. These days you can see a photo, is it manipulated? Is it completely computer generated? You can barely tell. You can watch someone making a speech in their voice, but it's a deep fake with AI generated vocals, and that's just beginning. So now it's getting to the point where any even objective information is untrustworthy. So we really are getting to a point where the only objective way to approach any perception, any of it all, is to say, I don't actually know. And that is a subjective thing. That every single perception is actually in fact valid. And in that way, if we are existing in a reality that is created by the mind, could it be that each mind is creating a completely different reality? There are realities, and this is true, you know this to be true, there are realities in the heads of your friends where Bill Gates is the most evil person in the world. There are realities in people's heads where Donald Trump is the absolute savior of humankind. That exists in their heads, irrespective of whether there's an objective side to that. And maybe there isn't. And that's exactly the point that I was gradually climbing to. That every single one of these realities could exist independently. Science fiction writers have spoken about parallel universes forever. But maybe that is purely just existing purely through perception points. Every single person has their own reality that's coming into a physical construct via their perception of it through the observer effect of quantum mechanics, and the world is building per each person. It's tricky, but maybe as a baby when you're born you don't have any of that, but because then your parents kind of get their reality into your head, so you start to make sense of things through your parents' reality. And they bring you into this kind of shared reality where we can communicate with each other via language, that these things exist and we have these names for them and we can communicate and we can navigate together. But at the end of the day, perhaps what we each are seeing are completely different builds of reality. It's being generated completely differently. And in the actual fact of it all, that in some realities, Bill Gates is trying to kill us all. In some realities, Michael Jackson is completely innocent, And maybe even in these people's realities, they have their own realities. In your reality, you have the reality of yourself, but people have in their realities a completely different version of you playing you. And it's not that they're wrong and you're right. There is no such thing. Every single person is right. And the only time you're wrong is when you think that everyone else needs to obey the same reality as you do. So in that way, the theory is, to some levels provable and some levels theoretical, but for every attempt and that you could look at this, the reality is in your head completely. Which brings us to the final level up. Here's the revelation. This thing, what I'm about to tell you, changed my life. It's brought me immense peace, immense clarity, and the position to grow in ways that nothing else has ever helped me grow. Because if you truly grasp what I've just told you, if you truly understand that there's a potential that every single mind has its own reality, and even if it doesn't, that the existence of an objective reality is irrelevant because these minds are going to think what they think anyway. Once you really grasp that and click into that, not only do you start to pick up on how you're doing it, how you have defined things, how you have opinions on so-and-so, how you have opinions on vaccines, how you have opinions on any topic, that each of these are your reality 100% and valid 100%, but are no more valid than anyone else's perspective because they have their own reality. Sometimes that's hard to hear. Sometimes that's hard to accept. Sometimes with certain topics, I refuse to change my mind. A good example would be racism. If someone's racist, they must get the fuck away from me. But still, it's about going, okay, but that's their reality. They've built this racist reality. And in their mind, it's 100% valid. In my mind, it's 100% not. But that doesn't make me the authority. I'm not, it doesn't make me more human. It doesn't make my soul more soul-y. There's there's lots of complex examples. But at the end of the day, when you start to click into this and go, their reality is not my problem. My reality is my problem. And if I'm truly part of making a reality based on my thoughts, why would I ever choose the choices that are horrible? Why would I ever live in a world where Bill Gates is trying to kill us and Michael Jackson is a pedophile and Trump is going to destroy America? Maybe those things turn out to be more factual with certain evidence. It's still irrelevant to my stance. For me, I want to live in a world where I can intentionally see when I don't have the answer, admit that I don't have the answer, but choose the side that brings happiness and always look towards the direction of optimism. Because if it is a subjective reality and you are making it up yourself, then it makes no sense to ever select the things that will bring you any misery or upset or discomfort. Because I know what you will say. People will say, no, but it's the truth. But it's like, that's what we just spoke about. You don't know what the truth is. People think that there's this brotherhood, Illuminati, who's controlling the world and trying to kill us. And it's like, maybe there is. Maybe in some objective reality there is. But there's not enough objective reality in this about it to spend your life tortured over something like that. Instead, I select the world where that's not the case. And I know people will say stuff. They'll say, what you're doing is you're gaslighting yourself. You're making up reality just however you see fit. I'm saying, no, that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm saying people should do. It's what we were already doing. You were already making decisions based on no objective truths. You're putting your opinions on a pedestal in your mind as objective facts when there is absolutely no objective middle point where you could be getting that information from. You'll find confirmation bias in either side of the seesaw. The only true way to be absolutely free of this conditioned mental constructs is to first admit that you don't know, and then once you don't know, you are liberated to decide to live a life and create a reality that is fucking beautiful and is good for you and where everything is actually quite happy. And even when things go wrong, there's an overall beauty. And to be honest, even one step beyond this is to transcend it and go, okay, some shit happened on this tiny little rock hurtling through space, like that actually has no universal significance in the grander scheme of evolution, with tiny specks of fucking dust that have evolved to feel things. Why am I going to stress about Michael Jackson? And that's all I really wanted to go, is again, absolutely taking control of your reality. Because it's subjective, and every decision you've made, and everything you've ever felt, has all happened in your head. And so everything you think is just putting blind faith into your thoughts as a self-referential machine, saying, I believe this, so it's true. And that is the highest form of ignorance, and also the trap of the Maya. And that's all. Okay, fuck me. I hope I got that across. I hope some of that made sense. And all I want to say is, irrespective of what Michael Jackson did, he was a fucking genius. Alright. Thank you for coming to my Joe Red talk.